Senior High School. The proposition for today's debate is that the Taiwan government should make public sex offenders' personal information. For the debaters, rules for timing your speech are as follows. When there are 30 seconds left, you will hear a short ring. When time is up, you will hear 2 short rings. And when it's 30 seconds into the extension, you will hear a long ring. And upon hearing that, you have to stop your speech. And rules for timing your cross-examination are, when there are 30 seconds left, you will hear a short ring. When time is up, you will hear 2 short rings. And upon hearing that, you have to stop your cross-examination. Any evidence cited during the debate should have a corresponding evidence card, which may be reviewed upon request by the cross-examiner and their teammates. The card needs to be returned at the end of the constructive speech following the cross-examination. For the audience, please turn off your cell phone or turn it to the vibrate mode. When the debate is still in progress, please do not trash or use flash when taking pictures. Thank you.
First, affirmative constructive speech. 4 minutes.
Honorable judges and distinguished debaters, sex offense has been a serious crime in Taiwan society. Despite all the efforts, there is still much room for improvement. To ameliorate the threat of sex offense, we, the affirmative, propose that Taiwan government should make public sex offenders' personal information. We will give evidence to prove the direct harm and then propose a plan to solve the problem. Before I begin, we'd like to define the term sex offender and publicize. A sex offender is a person who has committed sex offense like sexual intercourse against another person's will and compulsory indecency, especially against children. According to Sexual Assault Crime Prevention Act in Taiwan, people who have committed crimes against the Criminal Code of Republic of China in Article 221 to 229 and so on is considered to be a sex offender. As in this debate, we will focus on the recidivists, that is, those who have committed sex offense at least twice. And the term publicize means to make information about something generally available. Now, let me point out the harm. Harm 1. According to the Ministry of Interior, the increased rate of sex crimes has been 14.6 each year. Harm 2. According to the Ministry of Health and Welfare, in 2012, the number of sex offending cases is 2 times more than that in 2007. It also pointed out that in 2013, the number of sex crimes has increased to 13,928. In fact, sex offense has been so rampant in Taiwan that according to the report, the status and analysis of crimes published by the Ministry of Justice shows that the percentage of sex enforcement in violence crimes has surpassed the percentage of killing and is only lower than robbery and intimidation in 2012. And the number of sex enforcement has been the highest of the last 10 years, which was really significant. In view of the deficient current system, we, the affirmative, propose that Taiwan government should make public sex offenders' personal information, which can be realized in 3 steps: registering, tracking, and publicizing. First, registering. Sex offenders need to register their personal information after they are released from jail. The information includes name, gender, photo, age, and current living area. Second, tracking. The reoffenders will have to report back to the police station in person once a year, and would have to report back no matter when if their personal data has any changes. Third, publicizing. The personal information of sex crime offenders will be available for the public to view. So, for example, if I want to search for the sex offender's personal information, I would have to go to the police station and key in my own ID number, and then choose the city that I want to view where there is a sex offender, and I'll be able to search for the information I want. And for foreigners, they will have to key in their passport number. The detail of the plan will be elaborated in the second affirmative speech. We, the affirmative, strongly believe that the number of sex offenses will be reduced with the enforcement of this plan, since similar systems have been proved to work in other places, such as South Korea. I now stand for cross-examination.
Okay. 2 minutes.
plan to put the information. We already have the registry system, so we plan to put the database into the police station, and we only focus on the recidivists because we think that we're giving the first offenders one chance. But if they are recidivists, that means they already gave up their chance. So
Okay, and question, how can you expect people to remember the information in the police station they saw? How can you expect them to remember and to avoid that specific person?
Actually, what we're trying to do is, if you see any people around you, or if you would just want to search that whether your living area has a sex offender, then our system can really do it. If you want to search about the whole Taiwan city, of course you cannot remember all of the sex offenders' name and photo in Taiwan,
Okay, why is making public the only way to solve the problem?
because we consider that the current system isn't working and the recidivism of Taiwan is really high.
So the making public is the only way.
Yes, because the current system we already have.
Do you know the recidivism rate of sex offenses? The recidivism rate.
We know it's 3.7, but if you time 3.7 to the number we have in 2012, then you will see there are at least 300 cases happening each year. And that means there is one innocent victim every day. Can you?
Okay. How much is your budget?
First and 4 minutes.
Good afternoon, honorable judges and my dear fellow debaters. First, we agree with affirmative's definition of sex offenders. However, we would like to ask the affirmative what kind of the sex offenders is being made public. And according to the affirmative's plan of making public that they are going to make public of their names and their address. However, in America, most of the cases shows that when people find their homes, they carry out the illegal actions toward them. And the affirmative claims that their plan are putting the information in the police station. However, we doubt that people are going to the police station and check for that information. Now, we'd like to point out some facts. First, South Korea and the US has made public. However, the affirmative failed to give the evidence to prove that this can lower the recidivism rate. Second, countries that practice compulsive registry law considered adopting making public system, but they also conclude that giving the public access to sex offenders' personal information does little help to prevent sex crimes from happening, while it may lead to violence or even hate crimes against the ex-offenders. Third, according to our research, this recidivism rate is only 3.7% from 2006 to 2011. And according to what affirmative says, that there are 300 cases each year, but we think that the affirmative can don't have to work that much to make public their informations. Also, the majority of sex offenses are committed by someone known to the victims. Making the offender's information public does not seem to stop such unfortunate from happening. My partner will elaborate the issue later in the second speech. Several problems will arise if the affirmative plan is carried out. First, sex offenders are forced to move by the community and end up homeless. On the other hand, when it comes to finding jobs, sex offenders have more difficulties to find one. A study in Wisconsin stated that 90% of the ex-sex offenders lost their jobs or place to live. Study in 2005 and 2006 also showed the same results. What's more, in different countries such as South Africa and the US, once the ex-offender is identified by the public, people attack the offender for retribution. We do recognize a few weaknesses in the current system, so we propose our counter plan to fix the current system. First, raise the reporting rate. Second, work with charity organizations. My partner will detail our plan in the second speech. To sum up, making public system can only provide a false sense of security. Now I'm ready for cross-examination. Thank you.
First affirmative, cross-examine, first negative.
And you said that, are you satisfied with, there are still 300 cases every year? Are you satisfied?
However, in our research, most of them are not that serious.
We just want to ask that, are you satisfied with it?
What do you mean by satisfied? I mean that is it really low?
Do you think that there is no necessary, we don't need to do anything because it's,
We can do things other than making public.
then what, and you mentioned that South Africa and
Yes.
South Africa?
Yes.
Do you have the information? Can I?
Um,
And we're not letting people know the exact address of sex offender, we're just giving them their current living area. For example, if this offender lives in Tainan, we'll just say that he lives in Tainan and gives out his photo. So that will not make these sex offenders, just as you said, they will lose their jobs and they will lose everything. And do you think that, are you not believing that Taiwanese would go to the police because they want to protect themselves?
do you have the? I mean,
You just asked that, you just tell us that you think that Taiwanese won't go to the police station. If you want to protect yourself, will you go to the police station? Will you?
yes, but
Sorry. And about what you asked for, what sex offender are we targeting at? We're saying we're targeting at recidivists, and there is
however there are high risks or low risks.
there is the. According to our, you agreed with our definition on sex offender, and that is,
Yes, but you did
And
not
this-
specify.
we did classify, but there are a lot of.
Second affirmative, constructive.
Before responding to the negative contentions, I first like to detail our plan, which is targeted on recidivists. Our plan can be defined into 3 steps, which are registering, tracking, and publicizing. First, registering. If a person committed a sex offense crime for the first time, he is required to record his personal information to the police office, but will not be open. If the offender committed a sexual crime again, then he is regarded as a recidivist. His information will be registered in the police office's computers. Second, tracking. The offender is required to go to the police office in person to update his personal information annually. And if the offender violates the rule, the police will be responsible of tracking the offender. Third, publicizing. The government will be responsible of setting up the website inside the police office computers that contains the sex offender's personal information. The information included is composed of data such as the offender's name, gender, crime photo, and recent living area. People could get the access of information through the police office. They could search for the information by providing their own ID number and choose a city. And the record will be left once they enter the database. And then they could know the sex offenders that live in the city. The government should take the initiative of renewing the data. So now I'd like to respond to the negative contentions. The affirmative think that this is a low-cost plan, and we propose to work with organizations concerning this issue, such as Leasing Foundation. And we would also like to seek sponsors from enterprises producing products related to women and children. And it will not only solve the funding problem, but budget problem, but will also improve the images of the enterprises. And the negative also asserted, also doubt about our sex offender definition, but our definition is according to the Sexual Assault Crime Prevention Act. It means that anyone who is is related to law is regarded as a sex offender. And then we want to state that our system is different from USA because USA has notifications, but we do not. So it will not cause the problem that sex offenders will be isolated from the society or be hard to find jobs. And because people could only get the access of the personal information of sex offenders through the computers inside the police office. So, and also about the South Korea, our working model is South Korea, and they have this registration system as well. And in 2011 and 12, their recidivism rate was 6.35%, and in 2014, in 2011 and 12, their recidivism rate was 8.01%, and in 2014, it dropped to 6.35%. So it shows that our working model is actually effective. So in brief, only by making sex offenders' personal information public can we provide a protection to the general public. We thus would like to ask for an affirmative decision at the end of today's debate. And I now stand for cross-examination.
First negative, cross-examine, second affirmative.
Good afternoon. You mentioned that tracking system in your constructive fleet, right? Is that registry?
It means that if the sex offender did not update his information on the deadline, then the police will need to track him and ask him to come to the police office to update.
So the purpose is to make him to come here once a year.
Yes.
So how do you ensure that they won't commit a crime among this year?
But
Years of year among this period.
But his information is already open because he is a resident.
But do you have the evidence to prove that everyone can remember their information?
The affirmative did not ask all the people to remember who are the sex offenders.
So then how do you make sure that it won't work, the making public system?
We
will work?
believe this can raise the general public's awareness.
Do you
towards
have the
sex.
evidence?
But we open the information, yes, so they can search for it as long as they want.
Okay, so everyone has to go to the police station. But how do you, the policy is not known by the public, then how are they going to?
They will know, we will say to the general public that we have this system by, if the executive legislators, they will announce it.
But do you have evidence to prove that when they are carry out a law, then how long and how much citizens will get the information?
But it can be spread through media like newspapers or news.
Okay, so what is the notification?
We don't have notification.
Second negative, constructive fleet.
Good afternoon. Okay. The affirmative failed to prove that people will not be panicked after making public. And the problem of registry system is that it wastes a lot of human resources and money. And they cannot expect people to remember all the information in the police station. The affirmative claims that people will go to the police station to check the information of sex offenders. However, most people don't know the hidden potential danger. Therefore, people will not go to check the information. Moreover, the failure of Megan's law is that most people don't even know the policy, and they commit the same mistake. Besides the defect of the affirmative plan, we want to point out the harms of making public. First, making public causes hate crime. The affirmative said that they are going to make public ex-sex offenders' address. But once the people have the information of sex offenders, there will be a risk of information abuse. After making public, hate crime will absolutely become more serious. Discrimination against ex-sex offender will cause more harm to society. Since the United States made public the information, ex-sex offenders are literally isolated by the society, which discourages them from living a decent, normal life. Not to mention having a leisure to fix their mistakes, change their behavior, and become a better person. Second, crimes committed by acquaintances. Ministry of Health and Welfare has analyzed the ex-sex offenders, the sex offenses in 2013. Within 12,000 cases, they found out that 80% of the sex offenses were committed by acquaintances. Moreover, 60% of the victims who are under 16 were sexually assaulted by their acquaintances. Making public cannot solve the problem of sex crimes committed by acquaintances. It only produces a false sense of security. The affirmative claims that making public ensures the public safety, while people will be more aware of ex-offenders around them. That is based on the assumption that the offenders are strangers. With the statistic we presented above, the solvency of the affirmative plan is obviously weak. With the current official reporting procedure, victims have to repeat describing the tragedy that happened to them over and over again throughout the reporting process. It keeps the reporting rate is as low as 10%. Also, the process of prosecution and court trial takes too long and thus forming a long window period during which the victim might be attacked again if the offender is not detained. Our plan will raise the reporting rate as well as prevent the second harm. First, raise the reporting rate. Organize a task force with members from the police department, the justice department, social workers, as well as healthcare providers. The purpose of this task force is to simplify the reporting process. They work together during the reporting process so that the victims won't have to run around repeating their tragedy to different departments. It accelerates the efficiency of investigation and raises the victim's confidence of the police system. Second, work with charity organizations. Use their resources to provide ex-offenders with appropriate counseling and spiritual guidance. With the affirmative plan, not only can it not solve the issue, but also cause more hate crimes against the ex-offenders and cause more public panic. Making public is not the only way to solve the problem. Therefore, we the affirmative strongly insist that Taiwan government should not make public sex offenders' personal information. I'm not ready for cross-examination.
Second, affirmative, cross-examine. Second, negative. 2 minutes.
Do you agree that our system, our affirmative plan is different from USA?
Yes.
So does the negative agree that all the USA evidence is irrelevant to our plan?
Yes.
Okay, and then does the negative agree that if we use the system, a law will be passed and it will be spread through media so everyone, the general public will know about it?
So you have advertised your policy?
No, okay, thank you. So, and do you have the evidence about the 12,000 sex offense cases and 80% of apprentices?
Yes.
And also about the failure of Megan Law evidence? So, what is your budget amount?
It doesn't cost budget because we are just accelerating the process of the
So you are
process.
using the same human resources?
Yes.
Okay, and.
affirmative contention. First, the negative claim that they are, sorry. Okay, the affirmative claim